All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to this special episode of DM Radio. Yours truly, Eric Kavanaugh, is here. And we're going to have a slight presentation, about a 10-minute presentation first on federated architectures. Then we're going to dive right in with Adrian Estala and David Linthicum, our analyst of the day, to this whole new world of federated architectures. And we're going to get into some pretty interesting discussions. So with that, I'm just going to hand it right over to Griffin Desati, building the foundation for enterprise AI. Take it away.
Thank you, Eric. All right. Like you said, I'm Griffin Desati. I'm on the product marketing team at Starburst, and I am sure that you will be shocked to learn that I'll be talking to you today about AI. It's a pretty popular topic. Hear me out. I think you may just hear one or two things that are a little bit different. And before that, though, I want to start with something that kind of sums up where we are in the world pretty nicely. I saw this the other day. Now, I wish I could say I saw this on my ride to work, but I work from home. And so I see my billboards on LinkedIn instead. Uh, I think it's funny, but I also think it's pretty true. It feels like every company you talk to today, every thought leader you listen to, everyone wants to be an AI company, or they've revolutionized their service, their industry, their product with AI. And let's be honest, in some limited cases, yeah, that may be true, but the vast majority of us are still figuring out what AI is, what it can be. And that's hard for a lot of reasons, but mostly because it's constantly evolving as we evolve. So, to put it a little bit more simply, let me tell you how I think about it and how I kind of frame up AI, and how it fits into my world and maybe our world. Now, I am but a humble product marketer. A lot of people smarter than me have modeled the trends in AI in much more interesting ways, much more complicated ways. I think there's a really great model out from Boston Consulting Group I saw the other day. But let me just put it my way and tell you what I'm hearing and probably what you're hearing and experiencing. I look at this in a pretty simple maturity curve. You see, we're moving as infrastructure gets more mature, and you get into those last kind of two segments I've listed where we're automating tasks, we're automating decision making, we're doing true agentic AI. The impact on our business is supposed to go up, and that makes sense. I think that's the message that we're all hearing and we all believe. But the thing is that it's not quite that simple to get there today. And I know back to that billboard, customers, thought leaders, your boss's boss is telling you that you need to be in that circle. You need to be delivering this sort of automated experience, this automated, efficient way of doing things today. And that'd be really great, but I think you and I know that it's not that simple and that maybe we're not quite that far along. It's difficult to do that without laying the foundation for testing, for experimentation, for learning about what AI can do. And to me, that starts here. It starts in you're getting access to your data, you're making sure it's scalable, you're making sure it's consumable across your business. That's the path to AI nirvana. That's what we're all trying to get to. And again, I'm just in marketing, but if you'll allow me, I think it leads to my pretty simple conclusion off of this. Now is a time for testing and experimenting. It's about learning how AI fits in your business. It's about prioritizing agility and speed, not nailing it the first time around. Now, that's what I hear from customers. I imagine you're seeing some of these same things. So let's talk about what you need to really get into that circle that we all want to get to. Now, it's like I said, it's not just building AI; it's building for AI, and that starts with a simple foundation. And I think it comes in three layers. The first one, this should sound familiar from what I just said. It's about data access. It's about making sure your experimentation, your AI is built on all of your available data, whether it's on-prem, it's hybrid, it's in the cloud, and balancing that access and speed with governance. Very important, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Moving a little bit more to a little bit more of a sophistication, building on top of that layer of access is data products. This is making that data consumable to the broader org. This is where you'll be able to test and learn with AI, and that's the ultimate goal, is that innovation cycle. You're testing, you're deploying, you're scaling, you're understanding the impact that AI can have, all in an agile and meaningful way. So that's the ideal. That's what we're all shooting for. It's simple enough, right? But of course, if it were that easy, we'd all be doing it already, and you probably wouldn't be listening to me. But here's what I'm hearing. Here's some of the obstacles that probably sound familiar. Some of the things that leaders like you, customers that Starburst works with, are facing. These are pretty standard, obstacles. These are things that we deal with every day. We're talking about complex interwoven stacks of tech. I've got stats for each of these. The first one is from Boomi. 42% of organizations require 26 or more vendors to execute their data strategy. That's tough to manage. That means lots of integration. That means lots of opportunities to break down. It's complexity. It's difficult. It's chaos if you don't have it managed right. Moving into cost. This is a classic case of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Pardon my French. Either you're paying a little for a lot of those solutions for a multi-tool solution, or you're locked into one and you're paying what they say you have to pay. IDC tells us 70% of enterprises are shifting back to on-prem or hybrid cloud in response to this idea of rising costs and needing to control costs. And finally, I mentioned it earlier, governance. The more mouths you have to feed, the longer the data breadline, harder it is to maintain that governance and sovereignty. Gartner says 67% of CEOs want more tech work done directly within business functions and less in IT. Things are getting spread out, things are going out into the organization, they're not centralized anymore. That makes it hard to govern. I bet some of this stuff sounds pretty familiar. Now, if you see where I'm going, you all are smart people, so you do. Let's just spell it out. If you're limiting access to data or it's fragmented, it lives in a bunch of different places. If governance requirements, performance are getting in the way of getting that data where it needs to go, any application of AI is probably going to be pretty narrow. It's going to be pretty specific. And that may get the CEO or the board off your back, but we all know in the long run, it's going to bite you because you're not laying that proper foundation. So where are you left? I'm painting a pretty bleak picture here. What's next? I'm a marketer. You know what I'm going to say. Starburst is next. With Starburst, you can lay that foundation for AI excellence. You can get scale, you can get agility, and learn and implement quickly so that when the true AI revolution really comes to bear, you're ready and you've laid that foundation down. So at the end of the day, data fuels not just insight, but decisions. That's something that we at Starburst live by. And here's how you see that in our platform. It starts with access across different sources, whether it lives on-prem, data lives in a hybrid environment, lives in the cloud. It's interoperable with legacy warehouses. It's interoperable with data lakes. Making sure that all of your insights are built on all of your data is the first step to getting to that AI nirvana I talked about. Next, it all filters through the architecture of a lakehouse. We call it the ice house. It's a data lakehouse architecture, and it combines open source Trino with that open format of Iceberg as a table. So with that openness comes interoperability, more access to more sources. It's defensible in the long term. Using those two things, combining them, you're building an insight. This is where data products come in. This is where you're sharing data outside the data team with the rest of the organization. It's open, it's performant, and it's fueling those analytic workloads. All of that is the foundation. Remember the maturity curve I talked about? That's where we get to AI. That's where you're testing and learning on top of all those things to understand how you can build your own agents, implement existing AI agents, run machine learning, really have an impact and understand what that's going to be like in your business because you've built it on that strong foundation. Like I said, sounds like that maturity curve I was talking about a minute ago, right? And we're telling a story here. But again, you're smart. You know better than to take a marketer at their word. So let me take it and turn it for a second and tell you about one of our key customers and how Starburst has built that impact in that AI foundation. Now, this is a brand you probably know very well, Citi. And you may have heard this. Citi recently actually made a substantial investment in Starburst as a vote of confidence in our continued partnership. But it started with a really cool use case that drove some pretty amazing results. There's a quote that I love is I've talked to a lot of vendors over the last 18 years, and nothing came close to what Starburst can do. It's from the head of anti-money laundering tech at Citi. That's a pretty strategic and regulatory imperative for one of these massive financial institutions, right? And the challenge that Citi had was really about breaking down data silos. They had data living in multiple countries that can't be moved because of international regulations, and unfortunately, criminals do not live by those same international regulations. So you're dealing with a distributed possibility of threats. You've got strict data sovereignty laws restricting data crossing different borders and cross-border access, and you've got legacy systems. That's friction. and collaborating and using all that data to create the best models, that's going to be a problem with all that friction and that sort of that chaos. So Starburst comes in, we work with Citi, and we build AI powered anti-money laundering. We built a near real-time anti-money laundering data fabric. We federated query access. Investigators can analyze global transaction data instantly and without data movement. And we ensure compliance with strict banking regulations while eliminating the data bottlenecks of legacy systems. So, pretty exciting stuff, again, especially if you're in a highly regulated industry like banking. So, for Citi, that means instant access to that AML data over 100 countries. Reduces those false positives. You're talking about improved model accuracy, faster and better data, and saving millions of dollars in regulatory fines. It's a pretty impactful use case, and this is just one of them. But I think it really tells the story of building that foundation on access and openness and governance can lead to that AI, that generational AI. So you've seen the results, you've heard the story. Let's bring it back to where we began, this humble maturity curve. It's just one way of thinking about it, but it helps me remember what it means to be impactful with AI and why it's important to lay that foundation so you can start experimenting and start learning what impact you can have. Starburst can help you do that. I hope you're excited to hear more. Thank you so much for your time. This is just a small fraction of what we're doing and what's out there. I'd encourage you to check out starburst.io, see what we're up to. And I'd also encourage you to check out your intrepid host, Eric Kavanaugh, as he leads this discussion with David and my Starburst colleague, Adrian, and they discuss the journey to agentic AI. Thank you.